There is so much controversy surrounding the whole It Ends With Us movie and the book that I had to talk about it. So, we're going to be reviewing the book, the movie, and also talk a little bit about the controversies that are going on. Hi everyone, I'm Archana Balasubramaniam and welcome to my YouTube channel. So in this video, I'm going to divide it into parts. So the first part, I'm going to give you a little synopsis of the book. I read this book about 3 to 4 years back, and for those of you who haven't really read the book, I decided to go ahead and give a synopsis of that. After this, I'll let you know my take on the movie, and then we will move on to like the differences between the book and the movie, and then we'll finally go to the controversies that are going on here. So the synopsis of the book goes like this. So Lily Bloom is a 23-year-old. I'm talking about the book right now. She's a 23-year-old girl and she has moved from Maine to Boston. She's a florist and she has just set up a shop here. And she happens to meet a very attractive neurosurgeon by the name Ryle. Lily and Ryle hit it off, like they are really attracted to each other. But then the thing is, Ryle is someone who is into one-night stands. He has this no relationship policy, and basically he doesn't really date people. And Lily is someone who believes that someday she is going to find someone that she is going to fall in love with and have a happy family with them. But there is a lot of attraction brewing between them, and Ryle ends up falling for Lily. So Ryle and Lily get married, they start dating, and then they get married. So here is where the complexities of the relationship arise. Ryle is not who he says he is, and Lily is in for a surprise, or let's say a shock. And to add on to the mix of complexities, Lily's first love, she had dated a guy called Atlas, and he also comes back into Lily's life after many years. So her life is already complex, and now there is another complication walking in. So how is this going to pan out for all of them, and who is Ryle in fact? So this is what the story is about. But before you go ahead and read this book, let me tell you about a major trigger in this book. So this book, despite the fact that it has a lot of romance in it, it also involves domestic violence. So domestic violence and attempted rape are also triggers that are a part of this book. So please proceed with caution in case you want to read this book. So now as I talk about the movie, there are going to be spoilers from the book. Okay, so just a spoiler alert for you before I go ahead and start off with it. So when I went ahead and saw this movie, one of the major reasons why I saw this movie was because I really love Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. So Justin is someone who played Rafael Solano in Jane the Virgin. It is one of my favorite series, and I really loved Rafael Solano in that. And not just that, after that I happened to watch a lot of Justin Baldoni's TED Talks, and I really loved them. And Blake is my Serena van der Woodsen because I'm a huge fan of Gossip Girls and I loved the role that she played in it. So because of these two, I wanted to go ahead and watch the movie. So one major thing about the movie was that the cinematography was amazing. The setting, like how it was shot, it was all really good. And like even the flower shop that Lily has set up, it was beyond my imagination. It was exceptionally good. I absolutely loved the cinematography of this. Another major thing that I loved about this movie was the cast, because they were perfect for the role. Like despite the fact that Blake Lively and Justin are like, compared to the book characters, they are much older than them, because in the book Lily Bloom is just about 23 and Ryle is close to 30, but here they look like they're already in their 30s. Despite the fact that there is this age difference, I felt that the characters were portrayed really well and they played their part too really well. And not just that, I hadn't seen Brandon previously. I haven't watched him in any of the other things. I think I should go back and watch it. But after watching this, I felt that Brandon did an amazing job playing the role of Atlas. And not just that, even Eliza was awesome. She had just the spirit that I had imagined, like just the spirit and just the vibe that I got from her from the book. Marshall, however, was not exactly who I anticipated him to be, because, like in the book, I felt that Marshall holds a more prominent role, and despite the fact that he's probably not going to appear as much as like Lily or Ryle or Eliza, Marshall did play a prominent role in the book. But then, like I felt that this TV series, I mean, like the movie, actually lacked that. Okay, so the major theme of this movie is romance with an equal side of domestic violence associated with it. So, of course, the same trigger warnings apply. So, if you are not someone who is comfortable watching something with domestic violence in it, I would suggest that you skip this. But then I believe that this movie was made with an intention to educate like people who are going through it and to instill hope in them and also help break free from their current situation. So, there is a lot of controversy around this book and the movie, so let us talk about it first. So, this book has been labeled as a very toxic book. So, it broke the internet, like a lot of people call it very toxic, and a lot of people refuse to read this book because of the toxicity associated with it. While I agree to it to some extent, I don't believe that the entire book is toxic. So, the writer of this book is Colleen Hoover, and I believe that she has written this book because she wanted to dedicate this to her mother, who is a domestic violence survivor. In fact, the book has a dedication in the very first page. Now, before I read out what is there in the first page of the book, I'd like you all to know I'm just talking about the pros and cons of all of these things. It's not like I'm supporting something, it's not like I'm rejecting something, because I don't get anything out of supporting it. Nobody's going to award me with a trophy, and I don't get anything for rejecting it. Nobody's going to shun me for that. So I'll just read this out because I found this first line, that, like the dedication, really touching. For my father, who tried his very best not to be his worst, and for my mother, who made sure we never saw him at his worst. So just this line of dedication itself holds a lot of weight to it, because I can only imagine the struggles that Colleen Hoover's mom has actually gone through. So other than this, there are a lot of aspects of the book that readers call really toxic. I have a few other perspectives to some of these aspects, so I really like to share them with you. So one of the first things, like one of the first questions that arises in a reader's mind and that I've seen going on around the internet is that how did Lily even fall for Ryle? Because the very first encounter that Lily has with Ryle is that Lily witnesses Ryle in a fit of anger kicking one of the patio chairs. So like she sees that he is full of anger and he's trying to vent it out by kicking a chair. So a lot of people are asking, how is it okay for her to still go ahead and fall in love with him after witnessing that? So my perspective to this was that Ryle that day had a very difficult day. Okay, so he's a neurosurgeon, so he comes and he tells that a patient died on his table. Of course, like he is recounting his past, that is another thing, but it did feel like there could have been another instance of death on his surgery table. Okay, and if someone actually witnesses death like that in front of them, like something so close to them, how do you expect that person to be really sane like for the rest of the day? Like that does not excuse their behavior. Of course, they should never hurt anybody else, like any human or animal, any living thing. But he was just trying to vent out his anger on a non-living thing on a chair. So, of course, like I'm sure you have all heard of these rage rooms, right? Rage rooms are where people can go. It is just like escape rooms and other like activities. So, in rage rooms, you can go and you can break stuff just to vent out your anger. So, if such things are considered healthy, how would you not think that him kicking a chair and not hurting anybody around and not throwing his temper on anybody else, how is that considered really bad, is my question. So that is the first thing I felt. So now let's move on to the second part. A lot of people say that Lily witnessed abuse 3 to 4 times. Okay, and despite that, why did she not leave the relationship? And why did she fall for Ryle too, like after all of this? So one thing I read in psychology, Please note that I am in no way justifying this, and I am in no way telling that all these victims should actually stay in such toxic relationships. They should definitely move out of it. Like, nobody deserves to stay in a toxic environment or with an abusive person in their life. All I'm telling is I'm trying to see the reason as to like why she could have possibly stayed. So for this I did a little bit of research, I did a little bit of digging, like a lot of psychologist podcasts and all of that. So I came across this one thing. So people generally fall in love, or they find comfort in something that is familiar to them. So if you notice that Lily actually had a very troubled childhood. She had to witness domestic violence in her very own house. So her father, Andrew Bloom, was very abusive towards his wife, that is Lily's mother. And she had to witness that. Despite the fact that she really hated it, it was an environment that was familiar to her. So psychologists say that psychiatrists, so as and when they grew up, right? Like, even after you see red flags in a particular thing, you may fail to identify that as a red flag because you feel comfortable just because it is familiar to you. So that could be one of the reasons why Lily could have possibly stayed in that relationship. And not just that, a lot of people who say that, why didn't she just walk out? She should have walked out. Okay, mind you, she should have walked out. But a lot of people who say this, right, they haven't really encountered a real survivor of domestic violence. So a couple of years back, I happened to meet someone who is a domestic violence survivor, and with their permission, I'm actually like telling this, of course, with no details revealed. Like, they told me how difficult it was to walk out of it because you constantly tend to hope that this person becomes better, because the version that they have shown you is completely different, and now they have changed a little. So this person does not really know as to what caused that change, and they are trying and hoping to mend things in their relationship just so that they can see the person that they used to be, the person who they fell in love with. So when I talk about abusive relationships, it does not necessarily be restricted. It need not necessarily be restricted to romantic relationships. It can expand to anyone in the family or even the work environment. So it is just that these are some of the things that I came across. So I feel that in the book or in the movie, they have very realistically portrayed the fact that it is not very easy for you to move on from an abusive relationship. It is very realistic there, because like, if the moment like she actually encountered violence, if she had moved out, a lot of real life survivors, like a real life victims who are a part of it, they probably cannot move on. They'll probably tell themselves that, okay, I'm probably not strong enough to move on like her. But if they see an example where someone has struggled through it, they may have endured it for a long time, they need not put up with this bullshit anymore. They can move out of it. So basically, I believe that this movie and this book was actually made with the hope to with the intention of instilling hope in such victims, such people who are in such tough environments. So despite the fact that Lily knew that Ryle is an abusive person, she decides to co-parent the child with Ryle after separation, which I found really ridiculous, because like, it is pretty unhealthy, and how can you actually trust your child with someone who has a history of abusing you? So that is one of the major things about the book that I found was very toxic. So the best part about the movie was that this co-parenting part was actually scrapped off from the movie, and I really appreciated the movie for that. But a lot of aspects from the book was also missing in the movie that I really missed. So Lily was really addicted to watching Ellen's show, and whenever she wrote her journals, she used to address it to Ellen. So she used to say, "Dear Ellen," and then she used to start off writing about things. So I felt that that element like, it was missing in the movie, right? Like, it was a part of Lily's innocence, and I really wish that that had been like, a part of the movie as well. And not just that, Lily's journals were a huge part of her story, and even Ryle reading them and causing like, it's stirring up a lot of commotion. those aspects were actually missing in the movie. I do see that Blake Lively is actually handing over a journal to Ryle, but I do see that in the movie Lily is actually handing over a journal to Ryle. I know I'm just thinking of the actors and I'm using their real names, sorry for that. But I felt that, like about Lily had about 8 to 9 journals, so that entire part was actually missing. And not just that, one of the things that Lily had as a kid was that, like, Lily and Atlas, they used to watch this Finding Dory. Like, Atlas used to tell Lily to keep swimming because that used to instill hope in her. So somehow that part was also missing in the movie. It may have seemed, it may seem like a very small part, but that was a part of Lily's innocence, and I felt that it could have been a part of the movie. However, like, the movie removing a lot of the other parts of the book was definitely a welcome change, because there are parts of the book that I really hated, and I'm so glad that the movie actually removed those parts. But I feel that the movie did a better job of it when compared to the book, because the book actually indeed contained a couple of toxic elements, like one of them being the co-parenting that I mentioned. But of course, there are other aspects to the book that are really good, that are really beautiful. So just because like a few things are off here and there, people tend to shun the entire book, and people tend to miss that message of how a woman like Lily, she braves the odds and she actually comes out of it and leaves a toxic relationship behind her. So that is one thing that people tend to miss. But yes, of course, the movie has covered it. So talking about the movie, I felt that it was slightly slow paced, and it did differ from the book in a couple of aspects, and I think like some of these aspects from where it differed from the book was actually a welcome change. I'm so glad those aspects were actually changed as a part of the movie. So overall, I think this movie was good, but still I think I would rate it about 3.5 out of 5 stars. Like, I did enjoy watching the movie, everything was great, it was shot perfectly, like the message of the movie was really amazing, but the end kind of felt like a cliffhanger. So unless and until you have read the book, you will know what happens next, right? So because the movie kind of ends in a cliffhanger, you don't really know if there is going to be a part 2 of the movie, and as of now, I don't think they've actually confirmed on it. Another thing that really pushed me to actually watch this movie was that Justin Baldoni is someone who has produced The Last Days. So The Last Days is actually a TV series where 6 terminally ill people talk about their life, talk about their dreams, talk about what they're going through, and when you watch that, right, you feel like really appreciating life, and you are filled with a profound sense of empathy for them. So not just that, he is also someone who has produced this 5 Feet Apart. Since 5 Feet Apart, it talks about the struggles of someone with cystic fibrosis. And not just that, if you observe the talks that he has given, right? So I feel that Justin Baldoni is someone who really tries to bring out these social issues, lay emphasis on them, brings awareness on them, and tries to instill hope in people. And for the people who are not going through that, he tries to create a sense of empathy through his stories. So that is what I felt about Justin Baldoni, and I believe that is the reason why this movie was made. So now let's talk about the controversy surrounding this whole thing. So on one side, there is a controversy going on saying that Blake felt body shamed when Justin actually asked like how much she weighs, because there is a scene where he has to lift her. So that is a controversy that's been going on. And in another part, of course, like people really hate the way like Colleen and Blake have been marketing the movie. So I do not have reliable sources to this, because this is all based off of the internet. So I do not want to comment on what happened behind the scenes, because I don't exactly know that, right? But let's talk about the promotion part. I felt that Justin Baldoni did justice when it comes to promoting the movie, because he showcased what you can actually expect from the movie. So Blake Lively, on the other hand, like a lot of people did not really agree with her way of promotion, including me. I do not completely agree with her way of promotion, because she did not really mention that it's not just a romantic movie, it also has a huge part of domestic violence to it. because people walk in expecting a romantic movie, but then like when they are met with domestic violence, it could be a trigger for a lot of people. So that is one thing I felt that she could have done better. But another thing that I observed was that she does not want to reduce all that they endured to one label and just say that, you know what, this is what you have gone through, this is what is going to define you. So she did not want to really label people like that, which I felt was really well intentioned. So despite the fact that the output really hurt a lot of people, I felt that her intention wasn't that, because she did not really want to, like, make them feel like they have no other identity to themselves other than that. But I also feel that this could have been handled with a little more care and a little more sensitivity, because it's a very delicate subject, right? Because what someone endures is not just something that we can easily talk about. So a lot of us who have not gone through something like that, like the fortunate lot, we may probably not understand the depth of it, and so a subject like this really needs to be handled with a lot of care. So while it is good to point out the things that went wrong and all of that, and while it is good to call out people on that, what I felt is that we can actually try to identify ways on how we can actually let it reach more audience, let it reach the right audience, so that it instills hope in them. So one of the ways I felt that they could have promoted the movie better was that they could have actually partnered with organizations where, the organizations that help domestic violence victims, and they could have reached a lot of audience through that, so that they can instill hope in them. And not just that, they could have gotten a lot of stories anonymously from real life survivors of domestic violence, so that it reaches people who know about it to inspire them, who are going through it to inspire them, and also people who do not have much of an idea about it, just so that it raises awareness among them. But however, I noticed that both Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, they shared these helplines on their stories, on their things and all of that. So that is something that I really appreciate. But one thing I felt about the internet is that, like, nowadays this cancel culture is so prominent. So the way she promoted the movie is definitely not something I agree with. Like, I understand her intention was not to put a label on them, but probably it hurt a lot of people who have actually gone through this. And despite the fact that Blake Lively's marketing output came out to be wrong, I did a little bit of research on that, and I noticed that Blake Lively is someone who supports sustainability, that's another aspect, but then she also supports like Child Coalition Rescue, where they actually help children who have gone through sex trafficking or any other problems as a kid. And like, I felt that she, having supported such things, I don't think whatever she did like during the promotion was intentional. So one of the things that people should remember when they're actually offering criticism on a movie or a book is that, like, you of course have to point out the flaws in it. You need to call people out on their bullshit. So I did not really appreciate the fact that Colleen Hoover actually tried to sell coloring books and nail polishes on that. Like, while her intentions may have been really good with the book, I felt that this was, a little disrespectful to the DV survivors. But like, whenever you're calling out on such things, right, to any actors, any producers or anyone as such, I felt that it needs to be done in a very respectful way, and it needs to be done in a constructive way. So if the people of the internet are actually trolling the people, like really putting them down, really using harsh words for such people, I don't think like it really gets anywhere, right? The message does not reach anyone. Like, there is a lot of back and forth. I understand that there is a rage going on sometimes, but if you really intend to help someone, if you really intend to bring to light the struggles of DV survivors, I feel that people can do it in a lot more constructive way. So this is just something I wanted to put out there, because like, we expect everybody to be respectful, but if we are not respectful to them too, I feel that it could be a failure on our part as well. So basically, it is like a part that everybody has to play together properly. So I'll also be adding a few other relevant resources on my description and in the pinned comments. Like, I mean, I'll just add it in the description so that the pinned comments doesn't become too long. So please do check that out as well, because these are some of the articles and things that I used for my research in this particular video. So with this, I conclude my video, and I feel that It Ends With Us is a movie that you should watch. I rated a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Like, it may seem a little slow paced, but the message of the movie seems pretty important. And I even read in Justin Baldoni's profile that he shared a message from one of someone texting him. Like, someone had told him that they were able to actually walk out of a really toxic relationship after watching that. So if this movie inspires even one person, I think it has made its impact, right? So yes, that is what I feel about the movie, despite what a lot of people feel about it. So yes, that is my take on this. So thank you so much for watching my video. So if you like my video, please consider subscribing to my channel, and like this video, share it with your friends and family. So stay happy, stay blessed, and stay kind. Bye.